The British people do not realise how much they are being taken advantage of and how far the United Kingdom has fallen. And I always say, wake up, people. There is no such thing as a British Empire now. Britain really should be categorised as a developing country, like China. Although China is at least developing and doing stuff for its people. The UK, in my opinion, is doing the opposite, shrinking and also putting its people in harm's way with the threat of war. So I had to move there. The sun was in my eyes and I'm trying to get a shot without the sun being in your eyes. But anyway, this video is going to be a mishmash of a few things, but hopefully it might make sense because I'm going to touch on the East India Trading Company, the UK after the war, the state of the UK living standards and how gullible the UK people are now because they are so brainwashed by the media, who in my opinion are aligned with the political class, who are also solely interested in a tight alignment with the USA, even though that alignment constantly damages the UK. And as an example of that, think how cold this winter will be in the UK and how the cost of energy has increased. And by the way, the UK has the highest cost of electricity in the world. And that is all because of policy decisions and also because we sat back and watched the USA destroy vital energy lifelines and then replace that gap in the supply with high-priced American energy. For me, the UK is nothing more than a vassal of America and other moneyed back bad actors. Anyway, join me as I walk around this very interesting area and share with you some more stuff.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too.
So the starting point for this video came from when I was watching Keir Starmer and his delegation meeting with the delegation from the Chinese government. Quite frankly, that was an embarrassment.
My Foreign Secretary and Foreign Minister Wang met recently and discussed respective concerns, including human rights and parliamentary sanctions.
When I saw that video, my first thought was, does anyone actually advise this man on how to act when meeting other countries that have different customs and different sensitivities? Even I know that approaching a conversation with the Chinese officials in that way, in that manner, is just shocking, abhorrent, and absolutely counterproductive. The only reason that I can think that Starmer is playing that part, being that big man in that snippet of video, is because he has the backing of the USA and other vested interest. As I said, he was mouthing off as if the UK had any real importance in the world stage, and I have to tell you, the UK does not mean much now and is essentially just a big bank with a bit of a small voice, and also the world leader in money laundering. Anyway, I saw also on the internet some people said that the security pushed out the journalists because they didn't want to show that side of the conversation. The truth is that these meetings are often taken behind closed doors. They start with an open door and then they close. It becomes a closed door situation. But shamefully, Starmer, his opening gambit was out of order and not diplomatic. He tried to make himself look the tough guy in that fleeting moment of glimpse before they closed the doors, and he just embarrassed himself and the UK, and also put back any positivity that could actually come from that conversation. Again, an example of the UK looking great but not actually really having any real strength, playing the part and not being able to live up to the part, because the UK has no real strength. It is a limp dick of a country because of the current and previous governments, and the British people need to wake up to that. Pronto. A big tiramisu. It's windy here, so I'm trying to find a quiet corner so I can speak to you. It's winter in Beijing, leaves are falling, quite a heavy wind. Anyway, the UK had a British Empire, one so vast that they said the sun would never settle on the empire. These days, they're gone. In the east, which is India and China, the empire was represented by the East India Trading Company, or the East India Company. And I think it is has been the largest corporation the world has ever seen. And it terrorized the East, including becoming the largest drug dealer in history at that time. You should look into the Opium Wars, and that will make you understand more about China, and certainly a little bit more about Hong Kong. Anyway, there was an inflection point in history where India and China had two of the largest economies in the world, but they had a rapid decline. And guess what? Yep, the British, their warmongering, their rampaging, pillaging and destroying of these two civilizations caused that decline. The front of that was the East India Trading Company. And guess who owns that now? Not the British. It is owned by an Indian company. And I think they bought it just to embarrass the British. But again, it reflects, for me, how the tide is turning and how far the UK has declined. Okay, so let me see if I can get in the picture here. I think that is about it. Just looking at a very unusual sculpture there of a horse. Anyway, where was I? So, yeah, China and India are ascending, while the UK and its empire are on the way out. And that is the way of the world, to be honest. It's always been like that throughout history. And it will happen to the USA. Mark my words, it will happen at some point. Anyway, Britain needs all the avenues to trade that it can get, certainly after Brexit, which is a disaster for the economy. So, not being very mature when meeting the Chinese, which is a very mighty economic and manufacturing and engineering opportunity and partner, if it wants to be a partner with the UK. Not being mature about that is pretty stupid. And like I said in the previous video, at the moment, Britain is essentially just a big bank. After the Second World War, on the brink of bankruptcy, Britain gave away most of the empire and then transitioned into being essentially a big bank, a dodgy bank at that, with almost 50% of all the money laundering transactions in the world going through a British banking facility. And the benefactor of that capitulation of Britain after the war was the USA, who not only edged in place a secret hidden empire based on money controls and the myth of freedom and democracy, they also put in place a military machine that the world has never seen before. At that point, the British Empire was dead. Sure, Britain came out of the Second World War as a winner, but it also lost. And incidentally, this is important, and I have to point this out, Britain did not win the war on its own. America helped with its vast industrial and military might at that time, although they were supplying both sides. But as the Allies were attacking Hitler's Germany from the west and from the south, Russia was kicking 10 bells out of Germany from the east, and China was in a hellish battle with Japan, who at that time were a brutal occupying force, and it is about time that they owned up to that. The casualty count for the Second World War is horrendous. As war does, it always takes people's life, most of the civilians like you and me. This is important. The UK lost about 450,000 civilians and military personnel in that war. The USA 420,000, France 600,000, Japan 3 million, Germany 7 to 9 million. But China lost about 15 to 20 million and Russia lost about 24 million, fighting against the same countries, the same enemies as the West. So always keep that in mind when the US calls for some more wars that boost their economy at our expense. Keep that in mind, especially now when Starmer is playing the big guy and backing these wars and acting like he has some real power when he, the UK, has diddly squat. He will do as he's told by the USA foreign policy and their financial backers. Incidentally, For me, war is a waste of life. It's for what, basically? It usually costs us ordinary people our lives, our money. We are on the precipice of once again losing our lives, our money in a horrific war because of what? Our arrogance or the stupidity of politicians who want to act the tough guy. So I was just doing a spacewalk there. I love space. I've got a spaceman tattoo on my arm. So I did a spacewalk, bought a spaceman statue. I know, I like to help small business. So I want to finish by pointing out that this craziness is impacting on Britain, a population so brainwashed by the Western media that they do not see that they are paying a huge price for this odd world that we are now living in. The price, let me explain first up, really the winter fuel costs, for an example, they will be high this winter. Why? Because of the war in Europe, antagonised by the USA and to their benefit. Second of all, I want you to think of American states, all the states, and think of the worst state that there is in America. Get a picture of that in your mind. It's actually Mississippi. You may have had a vision of what it's like there in Mississippi, possibly a bit low rent, backwater place with some challenging socio-economical problems. And that might be the case, might not be the case, but you probably got that picture in your head. But guess what? The UK is behind that state in many indicators, and in comparison to GDP per capita is way behind. So the UK is a poor country, a developing country, a weak country, a country with a massive structural problem, and a country with a weaker than ever army, a history that's long gone and it's unlikely to come back at any time soon. And people hold on to this romantic idea from the past. It's gone. It's gone. Empire's gone. You have to see that. The UK has no real power other than a brand, a legacy image, probably more akin to Nokia. That's their image on the world stage. That's the UK. Its time's come and it's gone. But yet the public have a different view on the whole image of Britain. Their brains have been washed out and replaced by mush, media mush, and I can see that when I look at the data, and none more than when I look at data about what country is most likely to cause a threat to global peace. The answer given by the British public is Russia. It's up there in 40 odd percent, America down there 7%. Jesus, people, wake up. You're being mugged off by USA, and they are laughing all the way to the bank, the dodgy bank, run by us just to rub our noses in it. So with that in mind, why the hell and who the hell gave Starmer permission to talk Britain into wars across the globe? Just think about that, because I'm damn sure his son and daughter will not be up there in the front line. It'll be ours. Telephone box. That's why I sat here. Anyway, to close out this video, Warren Buffett, the great financial guy, once said, "Show me the incentive and I will show you the outcome." A great line. And if you put that into practice, keep that in mind, I think we should put in place a system in Parliament, in Westminster, where if we do find ourselves going to war, then all the politicians should have to, by law, put their name into a hat. And then, like a lucky draw, we should draw out their names one by one, and they should be sent to the front line with their firstborn and a gun. And we should do that until we've sent forward sent forth 50% of the total politicians in Parliament. I say we make that a law. I think that will change things. Peace out, telephone box. Spaceman. Bye bye. Catch you later.
So high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.